Hello, I'm R.Consoli, and thank you for joining me today. Just to get us started, I have a question for you. Have you ever been so fascinated with something and you want to pursue it further? Can you recall when that happened in your life? Was it as a child discovering new things? Or was it through your teenage years while you were discovering your own personal identity? Or was it when you were an adult? Well, for me, it was during my teenage years. My older sister was involved in musical theater at the time, and we both had a growing respect for the television series Saturday Night Live. We would gather around every other week, mostly when we knew the celebrities who were hosting, and then we would just spend the time laughing away. The sketches, to me, were incredible. I thought how creative someone would have to be in order to write them. And then I thought to myself, wait, I'm a creative guy. I could write these sketches for my actress sister to star in. And then it was at that moment when I knew I wanted to write. Of course, over the years, times pass, life is thrown into the mix, and the pursuit of actually making a living outweighed the creative side of me. During my young adulthood, I had to actually push my creative desires aside in order to become more suited for the workplace and the real world that I felt I was in. It wasn't until I was actually 3 years into my marriage when my wife said, "Why don't you try a new hobby instead of just hanging around?" We both had a good laugh, and then it hit me. I was very interested in comics at the time, so I actually picked up writing again, and I pursued the format of a graphic novel and to try and get it published. Now, starting off the project, there are so many avenues and where you can get started. It was really hard to select when. So I was actually introduced to a book called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, who's a movie script writer. After I read a few chapters of the book, I started to get my footing and started to come up with a few genres in which I could write. And then it developed into ideas that popped along in my head along with taglines for them. It was then at that point I had to research publishers. Now, there are many, especially in the comic book industry, that would be able to publish this graphic novel. But I wanted to make sure that I was on the right footing. So, after more research, I came to the realization that there's quite a lot involved with this process. I started to get a little overwhelmed. I actually reached out to a friend of mine who loves comics as well. And she's actually known by some individuals in the comic book industry. I asked for some pointers, and she actually replied saying that she was interested in developing a graphic novel as well. So we teamed up. We started brainstorming what kind of genres we wanted to write, the era, the setting, the time frame, the plot. And once we started that creative process, we went with it. So we left each other an assignment saying, okay, let's write down three ideas each, and we'll come back in 3 days' time, and we'll see which one fits best for us. So we did. So we came back with our 3 ideas 3 days later. We chose one. We were so excited. We started developing characters for it right away, how they looked, their personalities, and more. We started talking more about the setting and the time frame. It was at that moment that I felt very encouraged. So I hit the ground running. I said, you know what? How about I start writing the first chapter? And at this point, why don't you reach out to some of your friends in the industry to get some feedback? So from that course of time, she ended up contacting a few people, and she actually received some positive feedback with some of the ideas we came up with. And of course, there were some critiques that were a little bit harsher. But I think mainly that was for us to have such a strong footing that we would actually stand out in the business. So then we came back together, and she was telling me this information. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, wow, how great it was for these individuals to put in such a good word for us in regards with their feedback. And how crazy would it be if they share this information with the companies that they are a part of. But for the time being, focusing on the project had to be the main thing. Now, in regards to my this project over the last 6 weeks, I'm going to highlight on 4 important things that came up during this project. Number 1, you need a solid understanding of what you're trying to create, all the in and outs of it. Number 2, professionals in your scope of the subject are actually your best resource of feedback in order for you to achieve your goals successfully. Number 3, research and brainstorming can work in any situation, from essays to your own personal pursuits. And lastly, number 4, never stop doing what you love. You can only make it that much better as an individual. Thank you.